Please watch this video. This is gonna be such an insane idea I'm going to present. What if Earth is conscious? A logical, decent, cosmic speculation. A neuron can never understand the mind it participates in. Each neuron in your brain processes local signals. It fires or stays silent. It strengthens or weakens connections. It has no concept of you. It cannot comprehend your memories, your ambitions, your sense of self. And yet, together with billions of others, it produces the unified experience you call consciousness. If a neuron cannot grasp the totality of the system it helps create, why are we so confident that we can grasp the totality of ours? What if humanity collectively is operating like a layer of neurons inside a much larger cognitive structure, one whose scale makes our self-awareness looks microscopic? We already know that consciousness emerges from a network of relatively simple components. No individual neurons contain your personality. No single cell understands the organism. Complexity arises from interaction, not from any privileged unit. Ants are a remarkable example for collective intelligence. While a single ant operates with a limited perception and simple instincts, the colony as a whole can perform astonishingly complex tasks through local interactions and the use of chemical signals called pheromones. Ants can find the shortest routes for food, allocate labor dynamically among foraging, nest maintenance, and defense, and even construct intricate nests or bridges. Individual ants may appear short-sighted or even foolish, getting lost or trapped. Yet their simple behaviors, when multiplied across thousands of individuals, produces highly effective, adaptive, and coordinated outcomes. Wait, we can actually use the same logic to human. Each neuron only receives electric stimulus, either triggers an electric response or it doesn't, but collectively creates the smartest species ever known. What is the fundamental difference between stupid ants and very, very smart ant colony and stupid neurons with a very smart human? So imagine this, Earth as a slowly integrating system. Microbes processes chemical information, forest regulates atmospheric composition, ocean redistribute heat. Human civilization extract, compute, transit, and recognizes. Information flows everywhere. Feedback loops exist at every level. Disturbance triggers adjustment. Instability triggers correction. At what point does a sufficiently complex, self-regulating information integrating system begin to resemble something like cognition? What is the fundamental difference between the Earth system and the human neural system? Now introduce the second key observation. Consciousness is not the master of the system. It's not the dictator issuing commands. Modern neuroscience strongly suggests that what we are experiencing as a consciousness decision-making often is a post hoc narrative. Motor decisions begin before we become aware of them. Emotional reaction precede rational explanation. The self often explains what the system has already initiated. I have a whole video on that discussing this topic. Make sure you go and check it out. It's pretty fun. Consciousness is not the origin of action, but a flexible adversary layer, a strategy module, a way to integrate long-term memory, simulate possibilities, and adjust behavior when simple rules no longer works. In stable environment, hard-coded patterns are enough. Reflexes work, habits work, instincts work. But when the environment becomes unpredictable, when change is frequent, systems benefit from something more adaptive. That something is what we call awareness. If consciousness evolves when a system needs frequent strategy adjustment in a complex and changing environment, then any sufficiently complex system under sustained adaptive pressure will evolve in an analogous layer. A system that actively analyzes and rethink past mistakes and give direction for future decisions. And that is what we will see as self. Now consider time. A fly experiences time differently than a human. Its perceptual resolution is faster. Movements that blur for us are discrete events for them. If a fly can think, it might consider humans have no self-awareness because it is too slow, and given the fact about the size of the fly, it might not even understand that human is a whole entity. It might think that hands and legs are two different creatures that just happen to appear with each other often. If a system processes feedback over 1,000 years instead of 1,000 milliseconds, that does not automatically disqualify them from processing structured information integration. We cannot dismiss slow cognition simply because it feels invisible to us. If Earth were integrating signals across centuries, its thoughts would not resemble ours. They would be vast, slow adjustments. we would not perceive those in the present moments because its present might span generations, the same way that self-aware fly might view us. Now push this argument further. Suppose a system capable of fine-tuning themselves, of maintaining dynamic stability, are more likely to persist across cosmic timescales than rigid systems that cannot adapt. If adaptive flexibility confers survival advantages at every scale we have studied biology, why assume that this principle stops at organisms? Perhaps on a planetary or even stellar scale. Entities that can regulate internal instability outperforms those that cannot. And flexible regulation requires something to information integration, something to strategy selection. Then perhaps what we call consciousness is not uniquely biological, but structurally inevitable in the sufficiency of complex adaptive systems. Under that view, the universe might not be mostly inert matter, sprinkled with rare pockets of awareness. It might be full of slow, distributed, cosmic scale entity, each integrating energy flow, each maintaining structural stability, each operating on a timescale so vast we cannot perceive their deliberations. We then would not be rare, in fact, not rare at all. We would be subroutines of larger entities. We would be single neurons in a bigger brain, local accelerations of processing inside a planetary scale regulatory network. Our science, technology, and global communication system would be interpreted as rapid neural spikes in a slowly evolving planetary cognition. It is intoxicating to consider cosmic entity far beyond our scale, making intelligence decision that fails nothing more than natural selection, and we are a part of its thought process. Cool, right? Cool idea. But now we have to take a step back and talk about the stuff that counters this cool idea. First, emergence does not equal to consciousness. And colony displays a stunning coordination using simple local rules. No central executive, no self-model, no unified subjective experience required. Complex behaviors can arise purely from decentralized algorithms. Second, stability does not require awareness. Thermostats regulates temperature. A hurricane maintains structure. A star balances gravity and fusion for billions of years. Those systems regulate without needing a subjective experience. Third, adaptive flexibility does not automatically imply self-awareness. A system may adjust through distributed feedback without ever generating an internal narrative or a unified perspective. Consciousness, at least as we understand it, appears to involve more than just regulation. It involves self-modeling. It involves representing the system to itself. We do not currently have any evidence that planetary system generates an internal self-representation. Fourth, evolutionary selection at a cosmic scale is speculative. We assume that adaptive systems outcompete rigid ones, but the universe does not necessarily operate like an ecosystem of competing planets. Many structures persist simply because physics law permits them, not because they were selected for cognitive superiority. So yeah, that kind of sucked. A cosmic scale consciousness is possible. It is logically convincible. It is structurally compatible with what we know about emergence and adaptive systems. It cannot be ruled out merely because it operates too slowly for us to notice, but it is not necessary. Complexity does not demand awareness. Self-regulation does not require subjectivity. Stability does not imply inner experience. Consciousness appears in our best current understanding when system requires flexible model-based strategy adjustment under persistent uncertainty. Whether planetary or cosmic system ever reach a level of uncertainty remains unknown, but maybe in very slow timescale, their world is rapidly changing in fast pace. Who knows? So perhaps Earth is a vast and very slow mind, or perhaps it is just an extremely balanced, dynamical system with no inner life at all. The neuron cannot see the mind, but neither should the neuron assume that mind exists without evidence. And we, suspended between atoms and galaxies, must live inside that uncertainty, not as prophets of cosmic consciousness, but as curious substructure in a universe that may be thinking or may simply be unfolding. And perhaps the most remarkable thing is the universe produces system capable of asking questions.